everybody. Good evening, Om Shanti, and welcome to Inner Space Family, and a very warm welcome to all our online viewers. This evening's theme from addiction to revival, very, very interesting. And for that, we have Sister Nina with us. Who doesn't know Nina? Who doesn't know her? I think she's been here a few times. Everybody knows Nina. She's funny. I like her sense of humor. You know, her sense of humor is really good. She always make a joke and make people laugh. She has been practicing meditation, I think, over 28 years. Yeah. And her specialty is approach to meeting the unique needs of individuals seeking to transform their lives, valuing the idea of when I change, others also change. That's very, very interesting. So not taking too much of your time and passing over to Nina. Thank you.
Others change, so it's a me first approach. Yes, which can be a bit daunting at times, actually. So do we not need this? Just leave it as it is. Okay. So shall I pull it around? Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So it's really nice to be able to sit in the seat and with a view to ticking off something that's been on your to-do list for quite a while. So I'm very pleased to be here this evening to deliver this talk on from addiction to survival. And I actually did start working with from addiction to survival, to being a survivor, from addiction to survivor. And my take on the change in the title from addiction to revival is that the addict actually survives addiction, during which a revival takes place. And that revival is about revisiting something that belongs to them, retrieving something. So it's about remembering. So the revival is about remembering something and becoming that again. So what I want to first, say in approaching this topic is that the journey of the human soul is one of addiction and survival, addiction and survival. And not one single person can escape it. Nobody escapes it. We all have to experience moving from some form of addiction to, really reclaiming our true self. So we are all, the reason why I'm saying that is that we're all addicted to external stimuli, external approval to a greater or lesser extent, because we are mainly influenced by what we can see. We come into bodies and we're living in the physical. We've become so much a part of the material world that we can't relate to anything that is non-physical. So we can only relate to what we can actually see. So for me, survival to addiction to revival is a journey that moves beyond actually forgetting who we truly are and offers a path to transformation. And to set the scene, what I want to do is to begin with a true story about an individual's journey from addiction to survival. So there's this lady who won about £500,000 on I don't know, the lottery or whatever. I don't know if it's the lottery. And she spent her honeymoon in Las Vegas gambling. And 2 years down the road, she actually lost it all. Would you believe it? She lost the whole £500,000. And then, as a last resort, she decided to borrow her son's uh, student loan. And she lost her son's student loan gambling. And that was the turning point for her. Because what she did several years later, as a result of the work that she has done on herself in order to let go of the addiction, was to set up a home for women who were addicted to gambling. So for me, it's a powerful story that shows how our darkest experiences can help us shine a light to create a better world. Yeah. So that's one example of someone actually experiencing addiction. But addiction actually comes in many different forms. Some of them are very subtle. Some of them are very, aggressive, active. So for example, overthinking is an addiction. Um, yeah, overthinking is an addiction that leads to gambling. It's like the subtle form of addiction that builds into the manifestation of something real, like gambling. So the purpose of this evening's talk is to look at the hidden roots of addictive patterns, not as a moral failure, but as signals from deep within ourselves, urging us to remember who we truly are. So that woman who actually went into the habits of gambling, there is a science behind all of that in terms of where it's leading her. So, what we're going to do is we're going to be exploring how we can actually shift from addiction to surviving, and beyond that to thriving. And when we're really thriving, we're actually being that conduit for change in the world. And what we're going to also do, hopefully be able to do, is to build on our inner strength and reconnect with the truth of who we really are as creators of our own freedom. Addiction means when I'm addicted to something, it means I'm the creation. I'm not creating. Something out there is creating me. Something that I'm attached to, that I'm addicted to, is creating me. So I become that person that's with a lot of dependencies. So just to set the context of the conversation this evening, the world of opposites that we live in, it sets the scene for the interplay between the addictive and survivor behavior patterns. So extremes, both extremes are extremes of the other, you know. So it sets the scene for the addictive and survivor behavior pattern that is inherent in every human being, in everyone. It's like we come into bodies in on the world stage, and we have tests and challenges that we experience, and as a result of that, we grow. Okay, so I'm going to use the analogy of the ladder, which is really very universal. So, in setting the scene in a world of opposites, so we climb the ladder, we get to the top of the ladder. There's nowhere else to go, is there? But go back down the ladder, is there? So there's nowhere else to go but down. We cannot, light cannot be understood without an understanding of darkness. So again, those two extremes in a world of polar opposites, basically. This is how we function on this level. And the same is also true for the addict and the survivor. The survivor certificate is earned through the individual having experienced an obstacle course, which is really very much about going down the ladder and finding their way back up. Going down the ladder means that you're descending into darkness. Climbing the ladder means you're climbing out of the darkness into light. So we experience traumatic life challenges that feels like hell on wheels sometimes. And so, for example, another analogy is walking through the fire. You know, that expression is used a lot in our world. Someone walking through the fire, someone crawling through the darkness of the tunnel. And what normally happens in circumstances like that is that fears, insecurities, and phobias, and you name it, they come up and stare us in the faces. And the idea is that we have to overcome. That is our role here as human beings on the planet. We have to overcome. So, what I want to look at now is the hidden roots of addictive patterns, not as a failure, as I mentioned before, but as signals from the inner being. You know, that cosmic alarm clock that each and every one of us experience at a particular point in our lives, that wake up call. It's that spiritual alarm clock. And I can remember when my spiritual alarm clock started to sound. Life was very, very challenging at the time, and I just wanted peace. And it was a struggle actually coping with what life was like then. And of course, if I look back, I can see how there were lots of addictive patterns that I needed to become aware of and overcome and change in order to be able to be sitting here and having this conversation with you this evening. So the background to the fact that we are inner being is always trying to remind us with these signals: wake up, you know, stop gambling, state of being, state of being, state of subtle form, where freedom actually is ours to enjoy. We are born into matter, and we adopt the characteristics and the form of density, gravity, and physicality. So that's where we found ourselves in bodies as human beings on the planet. And we are no longer weightless. We are no longer subtle. We are no longer able to just move around without being subjected to gravity and density. And in that situation, what's happened is that we've learned to relate to only what we can see. And because of this, we've forgotten that we're divine beings. Okay? So, what are the symptoms of forgetting? What are the symptoms of forgetting is my question after actually coming to this conclusion. So, because we're in body, we're actually consumed by labels. Some of the labels we like, some of the labels we don't like. And having lost our original identity, we become attached. We're no longer aware of that we're souls. We've become attached to the likes and dislikes. So attachment is there if I like something, attachment is there if I don't like something. And there's that feeling of being trapped in a confined space, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And so, what do we actually do? What do we do? So, we use, kind of getting to the crux of the matter now, we're talking about addiction, I know. So, yes, I'm getting there. I'm taking a bit of time getting to it, but yes, I'm getting there. So, what do? We use these coping mechanisms in the form of addiction to actually manage being lost and feeling trapped in an unfamiliar environment. That's how we get used to being in bodies and dealing with the challenges of life with these coping mechanisms. I hope it's making sense. So, to cope in a world of discomfort, we develop our individual comfort zones. Comfort zone smoking, drinking, gambling, you name it, overthinking, all of those things. We develop our own individual comfort zones. And the more we dig deep into our comfort zones of addiction, like the woman who gambled away all of her winnings and her son's student loan, the more we're challenged, the soul, the inner being, the more the inner being challenges us to return to essence, to return to humility, to return to the light that we really are inside, from forgetfulness to remembering that we are divine beings. I hope you're following me. Okay. And so, really, this is what a survivor mentality is about. A revival means reclaiming our self sovereignty through experiencing the fire, through experiencing the darkest night of the soul, through experiencing the result of gambling and spending spree that she experienced. She had to get to the bottom of the ladder in order to be able to experience climbing up the ladder and become a survivor and remembering her true self. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to get at. So a survivor mentality is that of someone who overcomes adversity and prevails. They survive. We're all doing this. We're all doing it, and we should really be very proud of ourselves when we manage to take ourselves out of a situation when we know fully well that it's taking us to a place totally away from our true self. So let's just look at understanding the background of addiction. What is the background of this addiction? Every person is presented with an obstacle course in life. It's very much like being in a school. We've come here to learn lessons, and we're presented with these challenges. So, for example, on coming here this evening, I didn't expect to find challenges on the underground, but I had to travel 5 stops and waited at the station for ages, and the platform was packed. All the trains prior were delayed or cancelled because something happened in Houston. And when the train finally came, I have not experienced being like being in a sardine tin on the train for a very, very long time since I was young. It was very uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable, and I had to really focus on staying positive. There wasn't even anything for me to hold on to, because so I was being held by the bodies um, on the train, standing there. And it took ages for the train to leave the platforms, because people wanted to get home so badly, they were hanging out of the train. And of course, the train can't leave if people are hanging out of the doors. So yeah. So for me, that's a life challenge. And what do I do about it? It's about being positive as possible. And especially given that I was about to give this talk, it was doubly important that I stayed peaceful. Okay, so it's like life is very much like being at a school. However, to function and to actually stay afloat during these critical times, what do we often do? There were many times when I lost the plot. Yeah, I could say yes. I won this time. I survived. I was positive. And here I am sitting giving this talk. But there are lots of times I lost the plot. It did not work because I went into some coping mechanism that did not really help me to stay in my state of self-respect and self-sovereignty. So like the gambling woman, the addictive personality feeds on external stimuli, which is, people, situations, things, all of those are coping mechanisms. Whereas the survivor mentality is sustained. What is it sustained by? It's sustained from the wellspring of the soul's inherent qualities, spiritual powers, and of course, the supreme light. Because as I remembered, stood there being held by those bodies on the train, feeling quite strange, I was thinking, Nina, you're a soul. You're not a body. So really just remember that. And as I remembered being a soul, there was an automatic connection with the supreme universal source of light, God. Okay. So that's how, someone with a survivor mentality keeps afloat, stays positive. So beyond the surface, as I was saying, addiction is a coping mechanism, a symptom of having forgotten our natural state. So the addiction to gambling or anything else is the visible symptom, whilst forgetting her inner identity. So that's what was going on for that lady who was gambling. She forgot to use her inner being, and she started looking at, she was just relating to those external things and using them to cater for her needs. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a slide, and the slide shows a flow chart which maps a loop from the root cause of addiction to its behavioral symptoms. Okay, so the diagram. So just looking at the root cause at the top of the diagram, the overarching theme is clearly stated, and it's called addiction is a coping mechanism it's a symptom of a forgotten state, our inner being, having forgotten our inner being. And the chart also identifies the starting point, which is the cause, forgetting, and of the cause of addiction as a state of forgetfulness. So the forgotten state, which is the yellow box that you can see, it's labels the cause as disconnection from the true self, disconnection from the true self. And of course, there's a cause, so there will be an effect. So the effect, disconnection from the true self, directly leads to forgetting my inner identity. Yeah, because I'm focused. Where attention goes, energy flows. I've forgotten that I'm a soul, and so my attention in a world of opposites, of course, from the subtle to the material, subtle to the material. Okay, I've forgotten that I'm a soul. I'm a subtle being of light. I think I'm a body. I'm physical. I can only see that, and I can only take benefit from what I can see when I'm distressed. So the effect, disconnection from the true self, directly leads to forgetting your inner identity, which the diagram actually breaks down into 3 distinct symptoms: disconnection, loss of self-worth, and internal emptiness. So we can actually see, have a sense of what was going on for that individual who gambled all her money away. So the cause-effect loop, so the central column actually shows an active looped relationship labeled cause-effect, okay? Inside a large double-headed arrow connecting awareness to actions. And it's about seeking external relief, which is outer awareness, forgetting that leads to external release, that leads to addiction as a mechanism. The addiction symptom shows up as repetitive habits such as compulsion, anxiety, and escape. They're all there on the slide. And the feedback loop, which is the arrow at the bottom, as you can see, loops right back, showing that experiencing addiction symptoms continuously drives the individual back to seeking external relief, thereby reinforcing the cycle of addiction unless something really conscious and determined is done to stop that cycle. So turning our attention to the specific example of gambling, which is shown on the right side, links the internal awareness to external behavior by showing how forgetting the inner identity manifests as a coping mechanism. The coping mechanism ultimately shows up as a full-blown gambling addiction. And the diagram also shows 5 distinct consequences and traits of this particular addiction. Things like temporary escape, which temporary escape, gambling, smoking, drinking, they're all short-term gratifications, all short-term. Compulsive bet placement shows how the behavior is acted out. And of course, the financial ruin shows there's a material consequence. And the strained relationship that was played out with her son, because I can't imagine that her son was, very happy with what had happened. So this, just in sum, this slide actually shows that addiction, like gambling, are not the primary problem, but are destructive coping mechanisms. They are external relief that are used to mask a much deeper, painful internal state, a loss of our divine identity and disconnection from self. So, so that's the outcome of using the gambling story just to demonstrate the relationship between forgetting being a survivor and being an addict. So now I want to spend a bit of time just looking at the cause, uprooting the cause. So what do we do? So what do we do to uproot the cause? Because we can see that the cause is the culprit. The cause is the culprit, isn't it? That triggers addiction, forgetting that I'm a divine being, and which causes the cycle to repeat. So what can we do to uproot the cause? I'm just going to talk a bit about the survivor mentality. Okay. So a survivor mentality, so a survivor revival mentality is about remembering who we are. And it's about switching from outer consciousness back to inner consciousness, climbing back up the ladder, having reached the extreme of addiction. And of course, we are unique as individuals. Your path in terms of addictions will be very different from mine. Your extreme will be very different from my extreme. So wherever an individual needs to go to experience that aspect of themselves and begin to listen to the wake-up call, it's their journey, and that's unique for them. So how do we uproot the cause? I want to talk a bit about meditation. So it is my experience that meditation has been my experience in moving from the addictive patterns to a survivor mentality. And it's important to say that we develop a relationship with the self by investing in ourselves. When I took the Raj Yoga meditation course 28 years ago, for me, it was an act of investing in myself. When we invest in ourselves, we are investing in the future. And when we believe in ourselves, we believe in breaking the cycle of addiction. It's another way of saying we believe in breaking the cycle in order of negativity, of negative thinking, in order to become the highest version of ourselves. So, so when we believe in being a survivor, we become the conduit for change. And that's really very true for me. It's a very tangible experience for me, having got to where I am and to be able to have this conversation with you this evening. Um, the other thing to say about the process of meditation and in terms of what happens to one's makeup, um, the brain doesn't distinguish between, in meditation, the brain doesn't distinguish between the old and the new patterns, um, because we are simply focused on rewiring new neurological pathways to make the addictive pattern seem as it has already been achieved. It's already gone. Okay? So we are training the brain to ensure that we become the change that we want to experience in the mind and the body before it actually happens. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so the so 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 the things that I need to be thinking of are what thoughts, feelings, and emotions um, do I need to cultivate on a daily basis if I'm really serious about becoming the change that I need to see in the world. And remember, we don't have to be addicted to any major pattern like smoking, drinking, gambling. As I said, repetitive negative thoughts are addictive. Why? Because we get to a point where there's this loop of repetitive negative thoughts. And because we've practiced repetitive negative thoughts for so often, for over a long period of time, we're not necessarily aware that we are thinking in that way. So it's become unconscious. And those repetitive negative thoughts are like an underground stream that is trickling away without my being aware of the damage that it's doing, and it's creating havoc to my consciousness, to my self-awareness. This is how significant addictive patterns develop, because that kind of subtle process of negative and waste thoughts that's occurring there against beyond my knowledge, and just creating the circumstances for addictive patterns to grow. So what thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviors do you need to cultivate on a daily basis? As I said, repetitive thinking is a coping mechanism. It's unconscious. And as I mentioned, I didn't use the word thought forms. It actually creates thought forms, those repetitive, negative, unconscious thinking. So, for example, what is a thought form? Everything you see in this room. Every single thing you see in this room is a thought form. Every single thing you see in this room started as a thought and manifest as we work on creating whatever it is, the chair, the glass, the flask. That's how things become manifest as thought form. So you need to change your routine. One of the things that you need to do in terms of uprooting the cause so that you can remember. You need to change your routine to spend more time with yourself. It's like you have met someone that you are gradually falling in love with, and you need to spend more time with the individual. So that's the kind of relationship that we need to develop with ourselves when we are removing the cause of forgetting who we really are. So when we develop that relationship with ourselves, we're teaching the mind and the body emotionally how you would like it to feel. And you will become the creator as opposed to the created. Yeah. And yes, let go of those coping mechanisms that are based on short-term gratification and distance us away from relating to the soul. There was one thing that I wanted to also just put into the picture when I was talking about um, uh, overthinking. Um, when negative and waste thoughts become really unconscious, as I said, we're not aware of the thoughts we're thinking, but they are creating havoc in our lives, and we're not sure why those things are happening. At the same time, what is happening is that the body takes over from the mind. The mind is no longer functioning because the mind doesn't tell you. You know, these knee-jerk reactions that we have, it's when the body has taken over the mind. The body is acting in place of the mind because of my lack of awareness. I hope that makes sense. Um, I just wanted to drop that one in before I finish. Before I finish talking. So remember, it's important for you to remember that you're erasing old loop. You're erasing the old loop of addictive craving for external stimuli, and you're replacing it with a loop of self-awareness in being a survivor. And it's important that we love the journey and we embrace the journey, because recovery is not a destination, it's but a spiral of growth, which actually involves changing the invisible in order for the visible. So when I say changing the invisible, I mean changing my awareness in order for the visible, which are the actions, to change. Changing my awareness, my self-awareness, so that I can bring the being into action. So we build a loving relationship with that part of ourselves that we cannot see but feel. And this explains why freedom is actually a state of mind. It is only through meditation in creating a loving relationship with myself that I will be able to move from addiction to being a survivor, and beyond that experience to really a revival. So I'm going to stop. There's a question there.
I don't think it's so much a question as an acknowledgement of what you everything that you've said. Is this on?
Yes, it is on.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been in recovery for quite a lot of years from drugs and alcohol. And so I'm in a 12-step program. And what a 12-step program advocates, even though there are many atheists, it advocates is finding a spiritual path. And I can feel very proud of the fact that I always say I'm in recovery, not recovered from the drugs and alcohol. But of course, when you were talking, I thought, what has never changed up until 5 years ago? Completely addicted to cigarettes, completely addicted to sugar, which I'm only just having to address, completely addicted to buying clothes, completely addicted to, if I need to numb out, mindless television. And as you were talking, to begin with, I thought, oh, that, yes, my road of recovery. And of course, there are all these other things that I become aware of, but because I think, well, it's not drugs, it's not alcohol, I'm not going to get in my car drunk and run someone over, or, I don't realize that the damage and the weakness, that I'm still addicted to all of these other things, and particularly television. It's a wonderful numbing out process.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just, I watch the same programs. I know all the script because I've seen the episode so many times. So I literally I numb out from any kind of pain, and the pain that I've been in the last 14 months. I literally went to television. I just went to television to numb out. I didn't come here. Addiction is so great that it actually stopped me from coming to a place that would have helped me a lot more than watching 1,000 episodes of Little House on the Prairie. It's yes, it was just really amazing to just be reminded by all the things that you were saying, that the subtlety of addiction, just because it's not the big ones, addiction is a very weird thing.
Well, it's a human condition. I would say that it's a human condition, because I think I was alluding to the fact that we come into bodies to experience and express ourselves. And a very, very important part of that expression and experiencing of ourselves is about going into descent and experiencing coming out of that descent. So for me, it's a human condition. Everyone is subjected to addiction to a greater or lesser extent. And what the people in AA are doing is very similar to what we're doing on the spiritual path. I was thinking, just listening to you talking, it's no different. Yes.
And I was just thinking, of course, the biggest addiction now at the moment, of course, is mobile phones.
And scrolling.
I've never seen such a huge addiction in my entire life.
And I'm scrolling. There's a lot of, yeah.
Thank you for that talk.
Thank you.
It was a bit of an eye-opener again, just a little reminder for me that actually it's very subtly. And as you said, you've got to be careful, because the subtlety of it, sometimes, I don't think it's necessarily, I hope that it would never lead me back to drugs and alcohol, but it makes you negative and depressed in other ways. It's not your friend.
Well, yes, indeed, it isn't, is it?
No.
Okay, and thank you so much. Yes, lovely. Let's do a short meditation. So, just allow yourselves to sit quietly. And as you do so, just become aware of your breath. When I connect with my breath, I'm allowing this vehicle to take me into myself, my inner being. The breath takes me into life. Breath sustains me in life. And breath takes me out of life. It's the way the soul keeps the body alive. It is the breath of life. The breath of life that connects me with my inner being, connects me with the Supreme. That enables me to become that detached observer as it quietens the mind and stills the body, moving my awareness away from outer consciousness into that safe space, that place of calm, of stillness, quiet, and peace. That place that reminds me of being in the eye of a raging storm, untouched by what is actually happening in the periphery of the storm. And so I become aware of where I need to be and what I need to do in order to stay in the awareness of being a survivor, in the awareness of remembering as I face the obstacle courses of life, as I descend into darkness, I keep the awareness of myself as a soul and manage the storm around me. And in this awareness, I breathe in peace. I breathe out everything that is unlike peace. And in this moment, I am aware that I am inextricably linked, not just to soul, but to the Supreme, universal source of light. Om Shanti.
Thank you very much, Nina, for the wonderful talk and all the tools and tips given. Please join me into thanking Nina. Thank you. And before we go, there's a few announcements. Next big talk, same time, same place, and the topic is Choose Eco-Friendly Living. Choose Eco-Friendly Living. Yes, yeah. Fast track Raj Yoga meditation course, which is online, and it's starting on Monday the 1st, and it's the fast track, so it's like a 1 week course. Starts from 1st of June to 7th of June. The timing for that is 6 to 7 in the morning. So whoever wishes to join, they have to register through our website. As well as we do have a Raj Yoga meditation course in person. That's also starting on 1st of June. And for that is timing for that is 6 to 7:30 in the evening. And that's twice a week, every Monday and Thursday, starting on the 1st of June. Sunday morning meditations, which is online, and that's 10 to 10:45. You will get a link through our website, and our reflective meditations, which is in-house every Mondays and Thursdays, 7 to 7:30 in the evening. And in line with this evening's theme, we do a book called Breaking Through the Darkness. It's available in the shop, so you can browse through on your way out. So once again, thank you all for joining, and thank you to all our online viewers as well. Have a safe journey back home.